Happy holidays and welcome to Building Foundations for Education. It's an exciting time of year, and I'm thrilled to have our superintendent of schools with me today to talk about the wonderful highlights of this year and where we've come so far. Welcome, Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for having me.
So we're halfway in the school year, and it's the holiday season. Lots to celebrate.
Yes, we're halfway through the year, and right now, everybody is celebrating the holiday season. We have all kinds of Christmas programs going on at the different schools, or holiday programs going on at the schools, and elementary programs are they're heartwarming. They're just such a joy to see these kids, young kids, kindergartners all the way to 5th grade, out there performing the songs they've been learning and the different things they've been learning in school and performing for their parents, and the parents are beaming with pride and taking pictures left and right and all that kind of thing. And then when you get to the middle schools and the high schools, now you're looking at concerts and really rehearsed performances, and the level of performance is just incredible.
It's
the middle
impressive.
Schools, right, the middle school orchestras and bands and choruses are really, really good. Then you get to the high schools and it's top quality entertainment. We've talked before about we're very lucky to have such a strong fine arts community, and our schools are reflective of that. We have orchestra programs that are top-notch, perform all over the world. Band programs that receive recognitions, all around, and chorus programs that are first-rate and that kind of thing. And so, this holiday season is really a great time for our students to show off what they know, what they've learned. But it's great to go to those concerts and performances, because the biggest thing is to see the parents excited about their kids and what their kids are doing, and kids are up on stage performing. Some of those kids may be, this is their talent.
Yes.
Music or singing may be their talent, and that's their time to shine up there on stage. And it's a holiday season. It's time to celebrate, but it's also a time for these kids to shine.
Well, and I think it's so exciting because there's such a social emotional component to it that it just brings everybody together, all the students together, and builds that sense of community, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah, I think anytime the school can come together and celebrate, that's really what's happening with these holiday programs, is they're celebrating.
Right.
They're performing, but they're really celebrating. And a lot of times after the performance, there might even be refreshments or something like that, and you see the parents talking to the teachers and the administrators and the kids, and it's just a really great, positive event. And, so often we think about the hustle and bustle of the school day.
Right.
And we've got tests, and we've got unit assessments and all these things going on, and it seems more harried and not as enjoyable.
Right.
And then when we get to these holiday programs, that reminds us, kind of why we're really here, to help these kids grow and mature and learn, and and to see them perform is awesome.
Well, and you must have had a very hectic schedule. I know you were trying to get to all of them as best you could, so that's amazing, and thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no, it's, I need to be out there, to see the work.
Right.
I couldn't go to all of them, but I said to the principals at a meeting one time, send me all the invitations, and I'll try to get as many as I can. But I have to, give some credit to some board members and some district staff. Board members went to a lot of the performances to show their support. District staff went to a lot of performances. Some members of the district administrative team supervised certain schools, so they went to those performances. I try to, move around. If I went to these 5 schools last year, I try to go to 5 different schools this year, kind of thing. And one of the most heartwarming performances this year that I went to was Dodgertown Elementary. It was a packed house, and kindergarten all the way through 5th grade, the kids were performing, and their numbers were great. They did a fantastic job, and that was such a positive vibe for that school. And all of the holiday programs are going to be positive and special and heartwarming, but the one that I went to this year that touched me the most was Dodgertown.
Well, and the good news is people can watch it right here on this channel. I believe all these performances will be running through the holiday season.
That's right. If you missed the live performances, you can watch us on Memorex or tape or however that goes.
It's better than the Yule log. You can just tune in.
It's better than watching this silent Yule log. No, it's a way to see our students really shining, and the work of the students, teachers, and parents right there. Not on a standardized test, but on a way they can really express their talents.
And the other thing I think that's been heartwarming is really the spirit of giving. There's been so many community outreach efforts by our schools, whether it's through a National Junior Honor Society project to support Salvation Army with things, but a lot of good work, and that's really connected to Casual for a Cause, which has become part of our district's culture thanks to your leadership.
Yeah, I think I'm really excited about the fact that Casual for a Cause isn't anything new anymore.
Right.
It's just kind of part of what we do. Every month, each school, we have a certain organization that we highlight, and we learn about that organization, but we raise money for that organization. And coming up in January, each of the schools will be able to choose their own organization. For most of the months that we do it, we choose one organization district-wide. So right. For December, for example, it was the Salvation Army. So any fundraising efforts as part of Casual for a Cause that schools did all went to the Salvation Army. In November, it was the Veterans Council of Indian River County. We raised almost $3,500 for the Veterans Council. But in January and May, right. Schools get to choose their own charitable organization to support. And so sometimes it's a charitable organization that is directly related to that school and does work with that school and their students. Right. Sometimes it's they have a link to a family member or community member that's involved in a charity, and so they support that charity. But it is kind of great to know that now it's just part of what we do. Yeah, and I think, as we were saying before the show, the schools have become really creative in getting, coming up with different opportunities to be casual for a cause, whether it was an ugly sweater event at a school or whether it's flip-flops, or I know you said the high schools are jumping on board, and high schools can be a little more casual, so they've become creative as well. Well, that's the thing. The original premise was Casual for a Cause, students pay a small fee to dress more casually. And that really resonates with the elementary schools and 3 of our middle schools because they have uniforms. Right. So the students will pay $1 or so to dress down for the day. Mm-hmm. But at the high schools, we have a uniform dress code, but we don't have uniforms. So they dress pretty casually most of the time. So there wasn't really any incentive for them to pay $1 to dress any more casually than they do. Right. So the high schools have started to come up with events. Like, for example, Salvation Army was very easy because they asked the Salvation Army to give them red kettles that they could set up. And so they had red kettles at their cafeterias during lunch and that kind of thing to raise money. They've also had special events during that month. But you're right about the creativity. A lot of the middle schools especially have decided to have it not necessarily be a dress down day, but a theme day. Right. So an ugly sweater day. Some of them earlier in the year had wear your college jersey or your NFL team's jersey day. Right. Because that's out of uniform. Right. So, they could pay $1 or so to be, to wear their Gator gear or their Seminole gear or whatever. And so it's just great that, now it's not this new thing. It's kind of what we do. And the goal was to teach these kids about these organizations, but also to learn that giving back to your community is an important thing. Yes. And they definitely have received that message. We have been very supportive of, organizations like March of Dimes and the American Cancer Society in the past with Relay for Life and that kind of thing. And the last 2 years, our participation has increased, especially in the relays. So, it's starting to take hold as this is part of what we do is give back to the community. So that's great. And I want to say congratulations. You were the top fundraiser for the American Cancer Society Real Men Wear Pink. Was that what it was called? In October, I was part of the Real Men Wear Pink campaign to raise money for the fight against breast cancer. And I was fortunate enough to receive the most donations in our county. It was almost $12,000. Wow. And, it was great. Thank you to everybody who donated, not just to my campaign, but to the campaign in general. Raised almost $40,000, I believe, overall, just in our county for the fight against breast cancer. And so it was great to be a part of that, to maybe, use my position with a little bit of, notoriety in the public to raise funds. But again, the goal is to raise money for a cause. And so it was great to participate in that. Nice that I was the top fundraiser, but the big thing is raising money. Well, and I think also you brought up a key point with Casual for a Cause. It's really, hopefully the students in the schools are learning about these organizations in our community because many of them do great work to support us, like the Veterans Council, with their support of teaching what it means to be an American and civics. And I just use them as an example because there's many of these organizations that do great work. That's one of the partnerships I'm most proud of is the partnership we've been able to foster with the Veterans Council of Indian River County. When I first got here, they came to me and said, we want to have more of a presence in the classrooms. Right. We have some classroom, educational programs, and we've been in some classrooms, but not all. And over the course of the last 2 years, I believe they've been in every elementary school on a regular basis. They're into the middle schools now with some of the training, the programs that they bring in. And, Veterans Day was on the weekend this year, so we didn't take a day off from school. But on that Friday before Veterans Day, which was on a Saturday, so on November 10th, there were veterans programs in every one of our schools. And some of them were really, really impressive. And, the veterans that I've talked to really were thankful for the fact that we honored the veterans on November 10th, by having all of these ceremonies so that the kids knew really what November 11th was all about. And so next year it's on a Sunday. So we're not taking a day off from school on Friday or Monday, but again, we will have a lot of programs to honor the veterans. And, most of the veterans I've talked to have said they like it that way. They don't want us to give the kids a day off just to have the day off.
Right.
If Veterans Day was during the week, they would want us to take the day off so the kids could participate in the ceremonies, and I agree with that. But this way we have our own ceremonies on campus, and we teach the kids about what November 11th is all about, the old Armistice Day and now Veterans Day. And so that's a really strong partnership. But you mentioned the fact that we live in a community that does give back. And so hopefully educating these kids on the importance of that, they understand that when they become the adults and the leaders of our community and our nation, that giving back is important. Because a lot of the organizations in our community do, like Johns Island Foundation,
yes.
They give a lot of support to a lot of different organizations and programs, some of which you're directly related to.
Yes, the Old Basso School as well, which
yes.
just having dedicated the Real Lab. So, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, without support of organizations like the Johns Island Foundation, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of those great, crazy things.
Yeah. Well, and so as we were saying when we started, we're halfway through, and I'm sure as you reflect, there's been a lot of wonderful accomplishments, but what's maybe one thing that really stands out? I mean, certainly we want to forget about the Hurricane Irma, but that was a great accomplishment, but there's been other wonderful things as well.
Well, but I do want to I think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of is the way we handled Hurricane
yes.
Irma and the way we bounced right back and got right back into school mode.
Yes.
I was really just grateful for how quickly we got back into regular operating mode. And I visited classrooms the first couple of days we were back. I think I was in every school in the first 2 days we were back, and teachers were teaching, kids were learning. We were right back into the groove, and we were very fortunate to not have suffered a lot of damage here in our community. Our schools were really unscathed. So someone might say, well, it was easy for you to get back. You didn't have any schools that were really damaged or anything like that. But that's a traumatic experience. A lot of families evacuated, and those that didn't still had to hunker down and weather it out. So, even though we didn't really have a lot of physical damage, it's still something our community had to deal with, and our students and teachers and family members had to deal with. So the way we were able to come back was just very, very impressive. But I was at a music performance the other day, and the band instructor talked about the fact that they had lost a lot of days to the hurricane.
Right.
Because we were out 7 days and 7 instructional days. And so that was 7 days of practice and rehearsal and that kind of thing. And he was really impressed with how his students had, still met the high performance expectations that band had, the tradition of high performance, and that it was all done even though we had this hurricane. And people think about the hurricane was so long ago, but every day we lose, is compounded, as we go forward through the semester and through the year. And so I think the way that we've bounced back academically in the classroom, but then, with all the different extracurricular, co-curricular activities, such as, band and music, and obviously the sports teams and things like that, it's almost like we didn't miss a beat.
Right. Well, congratulations, and what a tremendous testimony, especially to our principals, because I think when you become a principal, that's not on your radar that you're going to become a shelter director as well.
Yeah, I think we talked about it at a previous show. People don't train you in administrative training school that you're going to have to run a shelter. It's not in the master's program for educational leadership. And our principals and assistant principals, we had a lot of assistant principals that jumped in and pulled a lot of shelter duty time. And the leadership during the hurricane was awesome. But again, you come back to work and everybody needs to get back into school mode pretty quickly. And so, thankful for the efforts of the leaders. But the teachers also, that's the thing that we kind of take for granted, all their efforts. And, their classrooms were used as shelters. We were able to bring everybody back to work for a day before the students came back. So we were able to make sure that the classrooms were ready and that kind of thing. But teachers have had to totally readjust their lesson plans, their scope and sequence calendar, when they were going to teach which standard, when they were going to cover this unit and all that kind of thing. I mean, we lost 7 days of instruction. We are making up, a couple, but in reality, that was a big chunk of instructional time that was lost. And again, every time I visit a classroom, everybody's moving right along. And, I don't want to say it didn't affect us, but makes it look like it didn't affect us. So, big thank you, to the teachers for how they've handled it.
So speaking of teachers and phenomenal staff, we had a celebration recently of our 5 finalists, Teacher of the Year finalist and Employee of the Year finalist. And you did something different this year, which I thought was cool. Yeah,
we went out on a prize patrol. What we did was we went out and surprised all of the finalists in their classrooms or in their place of work. A lot of times when someone becomes a finalist in something, or they receive an award, we do it at a faculty meeting or some other kind of meeting, or so some ceremony somewhere. And years ago, when I was a high school principal, we had a Teacher of the Month program going. And so at the faculty meetings, we would announce who the Teacher of the Month was. And that was cool because it was in front of their peers. But one of the winners one time pulled me aside and said, if you really want to honor me, for being a great teacher, do it in front of my students. Mm-hmm. That's who I work with every day. That's who I come to work for every day. So, the light bulb went off. Of course, why didn't I think of that? That makes more sense. So we used to go around and surprise the Teacher of the Month in their classroom with, balloons and flowers, like Publishers Clearinghouse coming and knocking on your door.
It's fun, isn't it?
Right. And so we did that in some other places I've been. So this year when we decided to, that we were going to have 5 finalists for Teacher of the Year and 5 finalists for Employee of the Year, we decided we would go out on a prize patrol and surprise them and have balloons and flowers and, take a crew and a video camera and all that kind of thing. So we did that. Friday a few weeks back, we got on a bus, a bunch of people from the district office and some school board members, and we went school by school, location by location, and surprised the Teacher of the Year or the Employee of the Year with balloons, flowers, a video camera. Just like Publishers Clearinghouse, we knocked on the door and went in, and it was surprising. Yeah, hello. And the students were cheering and all that kind of thing. We did one in a cafeteria, so the whole cafeteria cheered. And one time, one of the rooms we were one of the schools we were actually out on the in the common area. So class after class came by and cheered and that kind of thing. So it was really an affirmation, so to speak, for these employees to be recognized and applauded right there in front of their customers, right there in front of the people they work for every day. And then we took them out to lunch. So we went out on this bus and we went to the first stop, and then we picked up that person, Jillian from Fellsmere, and then everybody got to get on board the bus, so to speak, and head with us to lunch at Mulligan's. Community Credit Union sponsored this, so we didn't use taxpayer dollar for any of this.
That's important to mention.
Yeah, but you're definitely celebrating the work of our employees and making sure that they know they're valued, and doing it in front of the people they do this for, I think, paid big dividends. But also the surprise aspect, celebration, balloons, flowers, a plaque, and all that. And then, hey, you get to go to lunch, and you get on this bus, and then all the other people are celebrating too because they've all been, selected and that kind of thing. And so, we at the lunch, several of the finalists talked about how special it was for us to come and surprise them. And then we got emails and notes from them later, again, thanking us for the fact that they were treated to lunch and all that kind of thing and how it made them feel special. And so we're going to try to keep doing things like that as we go through the year to make sure that our employees know that they're valued and celebrated.
So if people are listening or watching and they have a business that could support, this is a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost everything we do to honor the different teachers and the employees is through donations. Right. We don't use any of our budget for that. It's all through donations. And we have a Teacher of the Year and Employee of the Year gala in January. I think it's January 22nd, if I remember. And it's totally underwritten or sponsored by local businesses and organizations. And, we can't do that without their support. We want to make sure we honor these employees, but, we don't use taxpayer dollars, so to speak, for that. Right. But again, we live in a community that is very supportive, so we're very fortunate to have that kind of support.
So hopefully someone's listening who can help with that as well.
Absolutely, and if they are interested in helping us out with any of those recognition programs, they can contact the district office and ask for Kristen McMillan. She's our public information officer, and she coordinates all of these celebrations. She did a great job with we ended up calling it the Star Patrol because we were worried about copyright infringement with Publishers Clearinghouse because it wasn't a prize patrol.
Right.
But we all kept calling it the prize patrol because that's what we know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kristen McMillan at the district office is the one who organizes all of these things.
And I thought another wonderful celebration, which was a first for our district, was in celebrating, we always celebrate student gains, but there was something unique that you did at a school board meeting recently.
Yeah, so a couple years ago, the governor started and the Commissioner of Education started recognizing students who had perfect scores on the state standardized tests. They would send certificates to them or letters. And so for the last couple of years, we've had board meetings, brought all the kids who had perfect scores on these state tests up, and
which is phenomenal.
Gave them a certificate and honored them, which is fantastic. It's amazing to score a perfect score on these state tests. They're very difficult. But after we did the last, a couple months ago, we did the last celebration of those kids who had perfect scores. Our testing and accountability department, Chris Taylor and Brian McMahon, they kind of said, we have a lot of kids who are making substantial gains. Mm-hmm. And they're really improving their performance on these state tests, but they're not getting recognized. And they said, can we recognize them at a school board meeting just like the perfect score kids? I said, absolutely, a great idea. So they came up with a range. And so kids had to make at least a 46-point gain.
That's huge. 46 points?
It is.
Oh my gosh.
On the 500 scale score, that's a lot of movement. That's a lot of movement. And if you're a kid who's been struggling in math or reading, and you're at what we call a level 1 or level 2, that's a low performer, and you move up 46 or more points, you might move from level 1 to level 2, and that's awesome, but we hadn't been celebrating you necessarily in the past. So they asked if we could do that. I said, absolutely. So they came up with the number. And then they made a list of all the kids, and they contacted the parents of the kids and said, the school board is going to recognize your son or daughter at the school board meeting for making significant gains on these state tests. And Chris and Brian will tell you, when they made those phone calls, they had parents crying on the phone.
Oh, I believe it.
Because these kids maybe had never been recognized for their academic performance in any way. And now they were going to be recognized at a school board meeting on TV and everything, and get a certificate and that kind of thing. So when we had the school board meeting a few weeks ago, packed house, all the families were there, and it was amazing to see the joy that those families, those kids had when they were being recognized for moving substantially on a state standardized test that is very difficult. And, we did the ceremony, and usually when we hand out certificates or plaques and we do a ceremony, the people involved leave the board meeting rather quickly. And we get on with the business of the board meeting and things move on. But this actually took probably 15 to 20 minutes to clear the room, because what was happening is they were all taking pictures.
That's wonderful.
The students and parents were taking pictures in front of the flag or in front of the board dais, or the even more gratifying thing is that there were teachers there that maybe like an intensive reading teacher that had worked with a kid, or your fourth grade math teacher who'd helped the fourth grader really move their performance. They were there to support the kids in the honoring, receiving the certificate. So then they were getting pictures with these teachers, and it was well worth whatever delay that it caused to the meeting, and well worth whatever time it took for us to figure out who the kids would be, and the scale, and print the certificates and make the phone calls. It was really, we say we're supposed to serve every student with excellence, and so this was another way that we focused on every student. Like I said before, some of those kids, this academic performance on a standardized test is very difficult, and for them to make significant gains and maybe not be recognized with a certificate from the governor or the commissioner for a perfect score doesn't mean we don't value what they did, the hard work that they put in. And so that was an incredible ceremony, and hats off to Chris and Brian for coming up with the idea. And we'll do it on a regular basis. It's another thing that we're going to add to our repertoire to make sure that we're honoring every student.
No, absolutely. I mean, I can completely identify with that. And I remember being happy when my child was the top of the red, and someone was like, because you're making gains.
Making progress.
So
and that's the thing.
Progress.
Yeah, it's not about, if you don't reach this certain mark, you haven't succeeded. If you've made significant growth, you have succeeded. And so we needed to make sure we recognize that.
Yeah. And so another exciting announcements that we've had recently are Schools of Excellence, which is really exciting. And I don't know if we want to touch upon that. And I also love Jill Robb's recent letter, congratulating the Schools of Excellence, but also talking about we have a lot of excellent work, which you've just alluded to in all of our schools.
Yeah, so the State Department of Education, through some legislation from the legislature, has identified schools of excellence. And these are schools that have been an A or B school for each of the last several years, and their point total on all their different standardized tests added up have to be in the top 80th percentile for their grade span. So if they're an elementary school or a middle school or a high school, they have to be a high performer. And so these schools of excellence were recognized by the state. So, our three magnet elementary schools, Rosewood Magnet, Osceola Magnet, Liberty Magnet, the charter high school, and also, I believe, North County Charter Elementary, were our schools of excellence. And what's interesting is they're recognized as schools of excellence, and then they're given flexibility. This is part of that HB 7069, House Bill 7069 that passed the legislature last year.
Right.
And so, these schools of excellence, since they've been performing at a high level, they get some flexibility in things, like flexibility in the hours of operation. They can start earlier in the day or end later in the day than regular schools. They can do some things differently with how they structure the learning during the day, and a lot of other flexibility in how they operate. And, not to be critical of the program, but these schools are succeeding in the formula, in the mode that we already have. If we want to give flexibility, it would be to the ones who maybe aren't succeeding and maybe need to do some things differently. So it was kind of interesting that you're performing very well, you get recognized. Oh, and by the way, you now get to have some flexibility.
Again, a sincere congratulations to the schools and to their teams.
Absolutely. And I think we know that we have some schools with strong academic performance year in, year out, and those are those schools. Other schools are, again, making strong gains and performance and doing a great job. Jill's letter was about Fellsmere and some other schools that, have some different hurdles to overcome than the magnet schools and some of the others, and they're doing great work. And so her point that really they're all schools of excellence is well taken.
And I thought what was really important about that letter was inviting the community to visit a school. And I would think that you would second that if people want to know about our schools, they can make an appointment for a tour and to learn and to visit and to see what's happening. Because I know personally when I take donors or interested folks through the schools, whether it's a Title I school, a magnet school, it doesn't matter. They are extremely impressed with the level of instruction and how things are occurring and the creativity and innovation that's happening in our classrooms every day.
You hit on it exactly. The invitation is the best answer. When someone says, well, I need to know about this school. What's this school like?
Yes.
The invitation is come and see.
Yes.
We have nothing to hide. All of our schools are doing a fantastic job. Come and see what goes on in one of our schools, in our classrooms every day. And every time I take someone to one of our schools, they come away impressed with the hard work that's going on, the academic performance that they're seeing in the classrooms and that kind of thing. And yeah, absolutely, we welcome anybody to come and visit our schools at any time. We have a lot to show off, and we are really proud of the work that's going on in our schools. So yeah, the invitation is always the best answer. Anytime I get a call from someone moving to the area and they say, well, this school, I'm going to buy a house in this school's attendance zone. What do you think? I'm like, well, let's go take a tour.
Yes.
Rather than me tell you about it, why don't we go look? Why don't we go see? Invariably, after they go on a tour, they say, oh, there's a lot of great stuff going on at this school. I can't wait for my son or daughter to enroll here. I can't wait for them to start, kind of thing. So, I think that's the case at every one of our schools. And, that would be the best thing to do, is to show off what we do.
Right. So they can either call the district office, call Kristen McMillan, call the principal, call me. I'll hook them up. So yeah.
Yeah. Any way they want to contact us to set up a tour of a school and that kind of thing. Principal's the best. You call the principal's office, call the school, and they say, hey, I'd like to tour the school, and the principal will be more than happy to take you on a tour. Yeah. You can show up unannounced and probably get a tour as long as there's not something crazy going on. But I think there's nothing to hide. We're proud of what we do in our schools, and so we welcome people to come and tour.
Well, we've covered a lot of wonderful things, so we'll have to do another show soon because I think there's even more that we could talk about, which is exciting, and a testimony to your leadership, to our teachers, to our principals, and to our students who are all working hard. But before we wrap up, I want to invite you and the community to come out to the Resolution Run 5K on New Year's Day. The Education Foundation is the beneficiary, and that provides funding to support our sneaker exchange, which provides children in need sneakers to stay on a path of learning. So you can come and walk, you can cheer, you can volunteer, lots of ways to support us, but we hope the community will come out and they can sleep in because it doesn't start till 10 o'clock. So
yeah, so I will be at the Resolution Run 5K participating.
Awesome.
So, and I've participated in 5Ks here and there, and this one I'm definitely going to be running in. So yeah, everyone should support the Resolution Run 5K, either by participating or at least showing up and cheering everybody on, that kind of thing. It's going to be a lot of fun, and the proceeds go right to the Education Foundation, who does things to support our kids. And if it's the sneaker exchange, all the better. What a great program.
Thank you. So thanks for being with us, and we look forward to another edition where we can talk about more of the great things happening here in our community and in our schools.
Thank you again for having me, Cynthia.
Thanks for being with us. Happy holidays, and we hope to see you soon.